I remember one particular meeting when I hated myself for this, but it was about 3 or 4 years into this. I was on minimum wage. All my friends were finding ways to work and do really well. And I was just stuck at this point, and it was depressing. And I thought, okay, I hate myself for this, but I'm going to do it. And halfway through this meeting, I said, I am Jewish, right? And in the UK, that's like 0.1% of the or 0.5% of the population. Is tiny. It's 200,000 people here. That's a minority, surely. This guy, and I don't even remember who it was, but I remember he just laughed and he said, well, if I said what I really think about that, then, well, I can't say that, basically. So yeah, at that point, I was angry and I just thought, well, screw this. I'm just going to do it myself.
All right, I'm Dave Rubin. This is the Rubin Report. Joining me today from across the pond is the host of the Heretics podcast, my friend Andrew Gold. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. What a pleasure to be here.
Wait, is this your Rubin Report debut? Is that possible?
Yeah, we've only done it on mine with you when you came to London.
Well, this is very overdue. I find that hard to believe. I often on this show talk about like the short list of people that make sense, and you are definitely on that short list. But before we get to making sense and all that kind of stuff, for people that don't know you, you used to work at a place called the BBC, which, as far as I understand, is a Hamas-linked terrorist organization. What is that now?
It seems to be. It's a weird thing, the British Broadcasting Corporation. I mean, I didn't actually work there. I just call myself sort of a fallen BBC journalist. I sold the documentary to them. And then
worked in conjunction with them.
In conjunction with. It's my fault because I have that label as like fallen BBC journalist, because otherwise it would be guy who sold documentary to them. Documentary did really well, and then I got put through this kind of weird re-education camp where I was told I shouldn't be white anymore, and it was just a whole horrible.
I do want to. Yeah, well, tell us that story too. I mean, let's. Why don't we start with some of that stuff, and then we'll get to the issues of the day.
Yeah, that was kind of my red pill moment, I suppose. I was about 27 or something. I'm not sure. So I guess we're talking about 8 years ago. I don't know. And it was peak kind of that new woke era of DEI. It was all being introduced. Everybody was very excited about it. And I was making documentaries as a presenter or host. So kind of like Michael Moore, but not really political. I was on screen and I would go and interview like an exorcist or maybe even Vice Media stuff. But again, not political, but and I sold a documentary to the BBC. I'd sold some to American channels as well that went out on HBO. But this BBC one did particularly well. It won festival awards beforehand, and then with the BBC was placed in their best of list. So everybody was really happy with how well it had done about this abusive exorcist in Argentina. And in that time, I'd also learned to speak 5 languages because I thought I need to be the best journalist they have. I've got to be the best. So I did all of this stuff because I wanted to be the next kind of big thing there. And after that, I had some meetings with the BBC who looked a bit not very impressed by me. And then they said, look, if you want to, you've got to go through our production company. So I was put in touch with production companies. I was put in touch with about 50 or so over about 5 years. And every single one of them that I went in with a bunch of ideas, I had this mad stuff. It was like gay conversion in Ecuador, people who make their adulterers stand in ant hills in Bolivia, like crazy stuff around the world, pedophiles in Germany. And they were so excited. Every production company was like, oh my God, how did you get this access? Because I've been living around the world and doing all this stuff. And every single one at one point, I'm talking about not 99%, 100% of them said, look, if we put this forward, by the way, there's absolutely no way you can be on screen. We cannot show. And I said, but I've got the access to these people. I speak their languages. I literally their languages. And they said, there's absolutely no way. We can't even go to them with that. So I was treated pretty terribly, I think. And the worst part about that was that nobody believed me when I said it. It's only years later that people have said, oh, of course that was happening. Nobody wanted to admit it was happening. And it's a strange thing when it's something we're so proud of, DEI, that they have to deny it so much. It's this strange paradox there. So that's how I sort of got started. Go.
So you were a filmmaker. Basically, your politics, I think, are at least now very similar to mine, but I describe you as kind of like an old school, sane liberal. You get red-pilled because they pretty much were like, well, we don't want a white guy hosting these, far out there documentaries. And then, okay, well, you realize, all right, I can't be part of this system because you can't magically change your skin color. So then what do you do?
yeah, I
Well,
started
there are tanning lotions. There are things you can do, peptides and things now.
It's funny you say that because, look, not every single person in all of these production companies was necessarily on board with it. They just knew that this is the system. This is how it works. There's not much you can do about it. So they would often joke with me. They said, hey, we can break your legs if you want, because then you're a minority. Some guys would say, are you sure you're not gay?
Right, I was going to say, you can sleep with a dude, that'll get you the gig,
Yeah, although as you probably know, nowadays being gay is like being Jewish,
it doesn't work.
It counts against you. So, and I remember one particular meeting when I hated myself for this, but it was about 3 or 4 years into this. I was on minimum wage. All my friends were finding ways to work and do really well. And I was just stuck at this point, and it was depressing. And I thought, okay, I hate myself for this, but I'm going to do it. And halfway through this meeting, I said, I am Jewish, right? And in the UK, that's like 0.1% of the or 0.5% of the population. Is tiny. It's 200,000 people here. That's a minority, surely. This guy, and I don't even remember who it was, but I remember he just laughed and he said, well, if I said what I really think about that, then, well, I can't say that, basically. So yeah, at that point, I was angry and I just thought, well, screw this. I'm just going to do it myself. I had a list of hundreds of people I wanted to interview, just interesting people around the world. And COVID hit. I was living in Berlin at the time. And I thought, okay, I'm at home. I've got a laptop and I got a lamp next to me and all of that. It looked terrible. Sellotape to sort of put things on top of a shoebox, that kind of stuff. And I interviewed people like, somebody who left the Westboro Baptist Church, just extreme people, interesting people, and whatever. I did that for like 2 or 3 years. The channel grew huge, got to 300,000 subscribers after a couple of years. And then October 7th happened. So I said, well, okay, we talk a lot on this channel about cults. We did a lot on Scientology, Jehovah's Witnesses, Hasidic Jews. There's an issue with Islam as well. And my own fans or viewers or subscribers went bananas, went absolutely angry at me, did really badly, the videos. I lost loads of subscribers. And I went, right, okay, this is supposed to be a channel about cult think and group think. And I said one thing you guys don't like, and everyone's gone, I'm out of here. So I thought, this is not fun anymore. So I immediately abandoned that channel, started a new channel called Heretics from scratch. And it's been like 1.5 years. You came on it, and it's up to about 600,000 subscribers in 1.5 years. So it's just like, it's doing well. And it's because it's speaking to a British public who, even more than American people, are not seeing that side of things. They're only being fed, as we, to go back to the beginning, the BBC line on things. So that's my sort of...
Right. So it's really fascinating because in essence, you were sort of canceled or like half pre-canceled by the mainstream because you didn't fit the intersectional calculator. Then you talk about their holy grail as an independent person. Then you have to abandon your own project. Now you start Heretics. And when I saw you in London, I think we went there from Heathrow. We went right to you. You're a fine interviewer. So you are across the pond right now. I talk about your country a lot. It seems to me you guys are in like a seriously dire situation. So before we even dive into that, how comfortable are you as an interviewer, and in this case as an interviewee, saying whatever you want to say right now? Because we know about all of the laws around free speech and people being, arrested literally for tweets and that stuff. So let's start with that, and then we can dive into the specific issues. Do you feel the need to censor yourself in any way throughout this conversation?
I probably do, not necessarily because of the authorities. But that could happen. I feel I have to censor myself partly because I might get killed by people who live around here. So that's a part of it, and partly because you have to. You can't just be, I guess, extreme in some respects because you won't be able to bring people with you, I think. The thing with the authorities,
sure, but you're not extreme. I mean, I know you well enough to know you're not extreme. That's the point.
But I get angry, and I feel like I was angry after the synagogue attack a couple of days ago. At the time of recording, I was very angry. I have had interviewees afterwards, when we've been editing their stuff in the UK, say to me, hey, can you just cut this bit and that bit? Because new things have happened whereby police have turned up at people's doors and things like that. Generally, what tends to happen is that they spend the day in a cell or something, and then they leave, and it's a whole big thing. It's a big story. If that happened to me, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. So we're not yet at that point where I'm that scared about what I say. the person who got arrested for 31 months, that was Lucy Connolly, and she's among many. One of the problems was that they were advised by lawyers to plead guilty, that they would be fine, and then suddenly she got 2.5 years in prison. Now, we have child molesters who don't see inside a cell for one day. She got 31 months. So the idea that wasn't political is absurd. The pushback on that has been huge, though, and hopefully, we're getting somewhere with that. But you're right to point that out. It is really scary. And I think we are, in Britain, a litmus test for you guys. Like, this is where you guys could end up. So you've got to watch what happens here, because we are going to a very scary place.
If you're looking for more eye-opening and worldly conversations, make sure to dive into our international playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a wide variety of topics, watch our full episode playlist, all right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.